This is Johnny Enlow on the right. If you don't know him, he's a QAnon conspiracy theorist. We're going to talk about QAnon in a minute. I just want to get QAnon's reaction to Donald Trump's assassination attempt. It is nothing short of entertaining as hell. Listen to what he had to say here.
I think if a recorder from heaven would come to the body of Christ and tell us how many times they pulled off saving either his life or a member of his family, we would be stunned. It would probably go into hundreds. And, and I don't know actual intel. I think I don't know if it's a year or 2 years ago, somebody with some level of insight and knowing what's going on.
Nobody in your sphere has any idea what is going on, Johnny, okay? Nobody.
Said to me, I'm not willing to say this prophetically or have it say that it was confirmed in that kind of way.
I.e., I have no clue what I'm about to say, but I'm going to say it anyway. Okay, go on.
That even 2 of President Trump's doubles had been assassinated. And it's...
Wow. 2 of Trump's doubles assassinated. Fascinating. Okay. Well, Donald Trump's poll numbers, everybody seems to believe, it's common sentiment, that his poll numbers are going to go up as a result of the assassination attempt. We don't know. We don't know what's going to happen. From the polls that I've seen, that's not true. They're going to go down, but we'll see. Why is it that the deep state, if you will, quote unquote, aggressive air quotes, the deep state would hide the assassination attempts if it would help Donald Trump? Why would they do that? Regarding the claim that Trump was assassinated like a billion times or whatever, I think Enlow's talking about this clip right here. On the top left is a woman named Kirsten Weldon. Both these people are QAnoners, have taken the QAnon oath, the whole 9 yards. Kirsten Weldon died of COVID after fear-mongering about it and saying, oh, it's fake and they lied to you, blah, 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 you know, all the stuff they do. Ann Vandersteel on the bottom. She's the host of the show, The Steel Truth. That's probably what this is, The Steel Truth. And she's, again, a QAnoner. She had Weldon on to talk about Donald Trump. And it's nothing short of entertaining. So listen to this. This is, once again, older, since she died of COVID, who knows how long ago. A few years. I think she died early January 2022. She died of COVID then. But just listen to what she has to say here to Ann Vandersteel.
So 15th, 16th, and 17th from my military intel, he's going to be triangulated.
Military intel? Wow. I don't even have military intel. Go on.
He's going to be triangulated by 3 FBI agents. And on these 3 days, 15th, 16th, and 17th, one of these days, they're going to try to take him out. This is what, the 55th attempt? And they have taken out 2 of his clones. So
the 55th attempt on Donald Trump's life, and they, whoever they is, succeeded in taking out 2? This is pretty clearly Johnny Enlow, or what Johnny Enlow is talking about, right? It's pretty obvious. Dude thinks that Kirsten Weldon is like a legitimate, valuable source of information. She has said some absolutely bad, insane stuff that I want to talk about, but I don't know if we'll have the time. I just want to show you, like, just a little bit more of her, give you an idea of how absolutely unglued from reality she is.
Oh, just FYI, yes, there's clones out there that are his. So he would
good clones, I guess.
Not have survived without the clones. So FYI. And we can really tell the difference between the clones by the tie. Sometimes the yellow tie, the red tie, and the blue tie Trump. The blue tie Trump is a happy clone that's very good at golf.
Okay, aren't clones like clones of each other? Wouldn't they all be equally good at golf?
The yellow tie Trump is not, that smart. And
well, at least they've recognized that Donald Trump isn't that smart. I think it's funny they're trying to come up with like an explanation for why, though. That's good.
The real Trump usually is the red tie Trump.
The real Trump is a red tie Trump. Okay. And how does she know this? She pulled it right out of her ass, as usual. Came out of nowhere. She fabricated it. God, I love this stuff to death. Like how absolutely crazy these people are. So anyway, this is Dave Hayes on the right, and this is Mary Grace on the left. And they are extremely prominent QAnoners. About as prominent as it gets. Dave Hayes is known as the praying medic. He's got millions of listeners and followers and everything across all mediums. He's written like 1 billion different books and everything else. He's decoded the QAnon, blah, 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 you know. If you're unfamiliar with QAnon, just give you like a 30-second primer. It was started on 4chan, which is kind of like Reddit, and that regular people post things. There are no Reddit influencers, really, or 4chan influencers, the same way that there are YouTuber influencers. Because the communities that exist all post about things that are interesting, and they all upvote subjects that they want to read more about. So anyway, 4chan has had 1 billion people over and over and over again say, I'm somebody special, I know what I'm talking about, and I'm telling you, Hillary Clinton, for example, is going to be arrested on like June 12th, 2016 or whatever the hell. And if you find a National Guard member around your town, then ask him what his mission is and he'll tell you blah. And that's supposed to be proof that Hillary Clinton is going to be arrested. Of course, it was all made up, like literally all of it. It was just fabricated. But people believed it. They bought it. So there's a guy that kind of created QAnon, goes by Q Clearance Patriot. Q clearance in the military is the highest level of security clearance that you can get. And it's only for like the Department of Energy, for example. It's only for like nuclear secrets and stuff. So this Q Clearance Patriot claimed to have the highest level of security clearance in the government. By the way, we can count how many people have that clearance. So it'd be pretty obvious which one it was if it were real. Anyway, a cult built around QAnon, full-blown cult around Q Clearance Patriot, and they called themselves Q Anonymous people. Like anon means anonymous, so they're Q followers that are anonymous, Q Anon. And you'd get like cryptic, weird, confusing messages from QAnon all the time. Didn't really make any sense, and its followers that have to like sift through what they thought the Q Clearance Patriot was trying to say. Let me just show you an example. That kind of thing led to interpreters appearing, like not prophets, not preachers or whatever, like a religion, but interpreters, where they would interpret what Q meant. So the praying medic here on the right, Dave Hayes, he is the top interpreter of QAnon, I would say. Hang on, let me find. They even wrote a book. Oh my God, I forgot that they wrote this book. I would love to go through this book one of these days and just like see what kind of absolutely insane stuff it has to offer. Be fascinating. Anyway, this is just an example Q drop, as they call them. This is a post from Q Clearance Patriot that the interpreters like Dave Hayes were tasked with interpreting. Just give this a quick listen for a second here. At the time, the January 6 hearings were going on, and Cassidy Hutchinson, the woman on screen here, testified to the fact that Donald Trump wanted to go to the White House wanted to go to January, like the Capitol building with the protesters to rally them and lead them into the Capitol. And Secret Service said, nope, you're coming back to the White House with us. There's absolutely no chance of us taking you to a full-scale riot like that. It's not happening. You just cannot be safe that way, so we're not going to let you do it. And the Secret Service agent just starts turning into the White House drive or whatever. And according to Cassidy Hutchinson, very high up in the Trump campaign, Trump grabbed the wheel of the Secret Service agent's thing and was forcing him to go to the Capitol. Eventually, it didn't work. You like that little hand motion I was doing? Anyway, the point is, of course, Q came against Cassidy Hutchinson, and the interpreters demonized her to the death. I wonder what they think of her now. If she's like a nobody. Quick interjection. This won't take long, I promise. I just want to say I'd appreciate it if you check my Patreon. OwenMorgan.com/Patreon to find it. YouTube's algorithm goes up and down, so I can never predict where it's going to be. Having patrons gives me some level of stability. Okay, back to the video.
Q was posting in the middle of the night. Early this morning, we got a message on the board from Q. A little bit after midnight, Pacific time zone, Q posted this. What is at stake? Who has control? Surprise witness? Who was surprised? Who will be surprised? Use your logic. Can emotions be used to influence decisions? How do you control emotion? Define plant. How do you insert a plant? Can emotions be used to insert a plant? Who is Cassidy Hutchinson? Trust a plan. Q.
So this is a standard style of Q drop, which is to say it's complete nonsense. It's meaningless drivel. Is the guy, by the way, we know who Q was. It was Ron Watkins, assisted by his dad, Jim Watkins. Goes by Code Monkey online, outside of his QAnon persona. He's hiding the fact that he's Q, but I am very confident that he's Q. I'll just show you a picture of him. He ran for office in Arizona. There you go, Ron Watkins. If you're unfamiliar, this guy right here. He is. I would bet money on it. I would eat my left shoe if he was not Q. And he when he ran for Arizona Congress, whatever it was he ran for. Oh, we got some funny clips from him, dude. Oh my God. I know I'm going down a rabbit hole right now on Q, but this is so funny. Somebody put together like a compilation of his debate performance from 2022, and I just eat this up. I checked this one out.
My name is Ron Watkins, and I am not a politician. I am an entrepreneur, and I'm a computer scientist. We have to send a fighter, and I am your fighter. I am fighting for you. If you send me to DC, you will know that I will be fighting against this evil, and I will make sure that we drive them back, and I will make sure that your rights are kept.
I was going to say protected. That works too, I suppose. Drive who back exactly? Drive back immigrants? By the way, for the next section, a coyote is a person who moves immigrants across the border illegally, and it commonly comes at a price. They're like mobsters. They hold your family hostage. They demand ransom payments. They say that they're gonna kill, it's terrible. Coyotes are not good people.
Biggest issue for this district is the border wall. The border wall was not completed, and there are actually sections of it that were destroyed. And I went down to those sections and I asked the locals, how did this section of the border wall get destroyed?
Of course, it's completely full of shit. I'm sure I don't even need to say that.
And they told me that Biden sent the Army Corps of Engineers down there to destroy the border wall for flood prevention issues. So I went down there and I saw with my own eyes, I saw the coyotes sitting right across the border. The coyotes looked me in the eyes and they ran away.
Coyotes like seeing people across the border, meeting with them, looking them in the eye, that kind of deal. They love making themselves known as coyotes, too. I imagine he knew they were coyotes because they had a shirt that said in gigantic letters, coyote, right across the chest. Okay, go on.
I want to say that we would not even be in Ukraine if President Biden did not shut down the Keystone pipeline on the first day.
What? What does Ukraine have to do with the Keystone pipeline? Keystone pipeline is in operation, by the way.
Because now that that's shut down, we have to get our oil, and we're getting it from Russia, and we're getting all these problems through the...
Okay, it was a delivery mechanism, all right? We can still get oil from Canada or wherever. We can still get it through the path that was created for the Keystone pipeline. We just have to use like a different method. But either way, it works, okay? The Keystone pipeline is not shut down. It was just supposed to come in like 4 stages or something. And I believe that we stopped on stage 3. I don't remember. But it is operational.
All these problems through the Ukraine, and that would not have happened if Biden did not.
So you see, the Ukraine, the pipeline helped prompt Russia to invade Ukraine.
Just complete bullshit all the way down.
Yes, sir, because we've got all of this oil coming through from Russia to the United States, and they want the
No, we don't.
better routes to bring the oil through.
That's not why they went into Ukraine. They went into Ukraine because Ukraine didn't want to be part of NATO. Listen, you're trying to work on the national stage, and you don't even know why the war started in Ukraine. It had nothing to do with the Keystone pipeline. The Keystone pipeline caused the inflation and the increase in our gas prices. The reason why they went into Ukraine is because Russia wanted Ukraine, as they had them pre-World War II, and Ukraine wanted to be part of NATO.
That's accurate, actually. Exactly correct. And he's the Republican in the race, so I'm surprised that he nailed that explanation so succinctly. This dude, Q, is just dumb as dog. That's the point I'm trying to reach here. He's just dumb as dog. He's a terrible speaker, has no clue what he's talking about, just makes it up right off the top of his head, seemingly. Anyway, that's Q. And he likes to post stuff like this. What is at stake? Who has control? Surprise witness! Who was surprised? Who will be surprised? Use your logic. Can emotions be used to influence decisions? He's completely full of shit, right? And we have QAnon interpreters coming in, interpreting the words that he says. These people are ridiculous. Anyway, I'm sorry. I'm getting off on a tangent again. Listen to the other stuff that this QAnon interpreter has to say about Trump.
Absolutely. I just put this picture up because it was so meaningful to me. Him on the ground, right? Whoever.
Yeah, if you're listening, audio audience, it's a picture of Donald Trump on the ground covered by Secret Service agents, basically, after the shooting. He's got blood running down his ear or whatever.
Got that photo. It's amazing, the timing of it. For those of you who are just listening, this is when Trump was down on the ground. It looks like his hands are folded together in prayer.
It does? You think that Donald Trump was praying? Do you think that's what was happening? Really?
And somebody made a meme. It says, divine intervention, make America great again.
Why would Donald Trump pray for help or whatever in that moment? Shouldn't God just stop the bullet? You know what would nearly make me a believer just about? I might believe the way that they do. If the bullet hit him dead on, hit his eye, and we can see gunshot residue around his eye, and the bullet stopped, hit it like a brick wall, and fell to the ground. That would prove it. Donald Trump turning his head and then the bullet shooting his ear doesn't prove jack. I'm sorry.
It's a very powerful image.
It's really not. It's really not a powerful image.
Rasmussen did a poll.
Yeah.
Rasmussen's a terrible pollster.
They polled people who self-identify as Democrats.
Yeah.
1/3 of Democrats said they believe that Trump staged the shooting.
Now, a couple things I want to make note of on this. A, hilarious to hear lifelong conspiracy theorists downplay a conspiracy theory like this. Hilarious to see them try to get the moral high ground here. And B, Rasmussen is completely untrustworthy. Do not believe the things that come from them. You need to find a different pollster. Hell, Fox News, though it's complete nonsense, has pretty decent polling. Rasmussen is biased garbage. Anyway, look for other sources. Don't ever use Rasmussen. And the third thing I wanted to say, letter C. Unfortunately, I've seen anecdotal evidence of a lot of people claiming conspiracy theories also about Trump. It was staged and everything. I saw that so much, especially in the early days. It wasn't staged, guys. Come on. Look, here's the thing. It might have been staged. Maybe it was staged. That's possible, right? But to suggest it, or even to bring it up with no evidence, even if it is true, it's a conspiracy theory. If you claim it was staged, you're a conspiracy theorist. Remember when COVID was around and people weren't sure if it was like from a biolab or if it was from a whatever, like nobody knew? And people just came out of the woodwork saying, it is from a biolab. It was released by mankind to hurt their political enemies or whatever. And then there was that one news article that incorrectly said, we think there's a possibility that COVID might have leaked from a lab. It didn't, but there was a news article that said it. And suddenly, conspiracy theorists coming out of the woodwork saying, see, we told you, our conspiracies are coming true. Even if they were true, which they weren't, but if they were, you still would have been wrong because you didn't have sufficient reason to believe the things that you believed. You had no reason to think that COVID came from a lab. You just didn't. Now, if we find that out, great, but you were wrong either way. The same situation with Dave Hayes here. If people believe that Donald Trump staged his assassination attempt or whatever, you're wrong. You're wrong. Plain and simple, you're wrong. Not because that could be incorrect information or that might be or whatever, but because you don't know and you are claiming to. In my mind, by definition, claiming to know something when you simply don't makes you wrong. Anyway, that's the bottom line. He is correct in the sense that there are a lot of people who seem to think it was a conspiracy theory or whatever, that Trump did it himself. I just don't have any evidence to believe that.
They polled people who self-identify as Democrats.
Yeah.
1/3 of Democrats said they believe that Trump staged the shooting.
Again, 1/3. I mean, Rasmussen's not trustworthy at all, but okay. Just like dead silent here.
That's crazy.
That tells you a little bit where we're at in this country.
Oh, dude, is he going to on conspiracies? Oh, boy. Yes, please lay it down.
Where we're at in this country politically. When a significant number of people, millions, tens of millions of people, believe that Trump staged his own assassination. For what?
Really? For what? You don't know what reason there could possibly be? Can't think of a single thing? Is there anything knocking around up there? Because it would help his polling, of course. But again, it's a conspiracy theory. It might turn out to be true, and if it does, it's no longer a conspiracy theory. But whether it's true or not, irrelevant. It is a conspiracy theory right now.
To get sympathy because he doesn't have a big enough base because he's too far down in the polls.
Yeah, yes.
Like, because he's an egomaniac. It's just, it's kind of bizarre how people think about this whole thing. And
I love hearing words out of a QAnoner's mouth that it's bizarre how people think. I love everything about it.
No matter, it's just crazy. You know, as a lot of us,
like, that's an even funnier word to use.
It's just crazy. You know, as a lot of us are just seeing more and more transparency in Trump and more of who he is as a person.
We are?
There's this other group of people who just keep on going down this rabbit hole, believing that Trump is this narcissistic dictator like Hitler who is just...
Yep, sure, yeah. I guess you could call me that guy. I'll embrace that title.
Hitler, who is just deceiving the entire world about everything.
Yeah.
It's kind of insane.
Yeah, he's a colossal scumbag, Donald Trump. Of course. Did you not catch on to this in 2016? He's always been a colossal scumbag. That's like his brand. He revels in it. Are you surprised when he engages in colossal scumbaggery? That's like his thing.
My question about that.
Like Scott Adams said years ago, there's two movies that are playing right next to each other. Some people are watching one movie and some people are watching another movie, and it's two completely different movies. And by the way, I don't listen to Scott Adams.
I don't know who that is.
But one of my admins does, Heather, and she was listening to Scott.
Scott Adams. Scott Adams is what he's saying. Yeah, I know Scott Adams. Scott Adams, creator of Dilbert Comics. He claimed to be an atheist for a long time. Now, not so much. He's very, very far right, fallen down a deep pipeline, and carries water for evangelical extremists like entirely too often, and is also very, very racist. I mean, I'll show you some clips from him in a second. Just keep listening here. So he doesn't listen to Scott Adams.
To Scott on his podcast, I think the day after the shooting, and Scott Adams, who's an atheist or agnostic, said, well, it does look like the good Lord has chosen Trump. And I say that I'm not even a believer.
Yeah.
There's another fascinating clip that I want to hit from these two. But before I do, let me just show you the Scott Adams thing I was talking about. After this first clip of Scott Adams came out that I watched like years ago, I went in search of some more interesting stuff from him, and I found his actual position on religion. He claimed to be an atheist for many years, and now he no longer identifies as an atheist. I think he's a member of Mensa, which is like a super tacky and like hubristic organization. Is that the right word? I'm not using that correctly. Mensa members could tell me how to use it better. The point is, they're full of themselves, and Scott Adams joined. Although, FYI, I qualify for Mensa, but I don't want to be a fucking asshole, so I didn't join. Anyway, so Scott Adams, member of Mensa, and he decided to come out here and lay down his thoughts on race relations in the United States. Outside of that, I listened to his his religious takes, his religious positions, and at one point he was an atheist, but at this point in time, to my knowledge, he believes that at some point humanity will become good enough, or with computers, to perfectly replicate the universe, like digitally. They'll be able to calculate the stars' movements and the galaxies swirling and the black holes and the everything. At some point, that will be something that we can accomplish. It could be 100 years in the future, could be 1,000, but AI will be able to do that sometime. So that's what Scott Adams says. And he says, so if you take that assumption, that premise, and you add to it the premise that we can make an unlimited number of these simulations, we just copy and paste and open a new one. The chances, if you take those two premises, are the chances that you don't live in a simulation are lower than if you do. Unfortunately, it's all based on information that we don't know. I can come up with all kinds of interesting ideas and base all kinds of ridiculous shit off of it that I don't know also. You know, I have a pink dragon in my living room that's invisible. I can't see it. And I also, like when I throw flour in the house, it doesn't land on the dragon, and neither does it leave footprints. So that tells me it's an interdimensional dragon that can move from like place to place at will. It does, however, have wings, and that means it can fly. That's the same kind of thing Scott Adams is doing with the simulation theory. It means nothing. But listen to him fully embrace his right-wing inner desires, I suppose.
Well, Rasmussen poll.
Another Rasmussen poll.
Had a...
by the way, I'm sorry. This is from 2023. This is February 22nd, 2023.
Provocative little poll today. They said, do you agree or disagree with the statement, it's okay to be white?
Again, like this poll is written to get biased, like provocative results. It is not intended to get to any truth value of any sort. In fact, it's not even like useful for getting real information, like at all. It's just going to make race relations worse. It's literally the only result here.
To be white. That was an actual question. Rasmussen asked, white and black voters.
I know, dumb as dog for them to have even asked a question like that, right?
and probably others. Do you disagree or agree with the statement, it's okay to be white? 26% of blacks said no.
Okay, if I were presented with that poll, I would think that it was a joke, and I would say no, because it's a joke. I'm white, my wife is white, my kid is white, a whole bunch of people that I know are white, my family, everybody in it. It's not wrong to be white. But just to troll them, I would say yes, because it's such a stupid f***ing question. But okay, let's assume it's honest.
It's not okay to be white. 21% weren't sure. Add them together, that is 47% of black respondents were not willing to say it's okay to be white.
So you're saying the majority of people think that it's fine and it has nothing to do with anything, or even it's good. Like what?
That's like a real poll. This just
Again, it's from Rasmussen. They're toxic and terrible, and they skew the polls, and they're completely untrustworthy as pollsters. You should never reference a Rasmussen poll, ever, under any circumstances.
happened. So I realized, as you know, I've been identifying as black for a while,
Because he's trans race, you see.
years now, because I like to be on the winning team, and I like to help. And I always thought, well, if you help the black community, that's sort of the biggest lever. You can
Wait, so you're doing it to get something out of it?
find the biggest benefit. So I thought, well, that's the hardest thing and the biggest benefit. So I'd like to focus a lot of my life resources in helping black Americans. So much so that I started identifying as black.
He's such a joke. He is such a joke, seriously.
To just be on the team I was helping. But it turns out that nearly half of that team doesn't think I'm okay to be white.
That is not what the poll said. Completely misrepresenting it. And either way, the poll was a misrepresentation of reality in the first place. And he knows this. Member of Mensa, remember? Knows what a logical fallacy is, was a member of the atheist community for years, has looked into all this, doesn't think that there's a God out there, whatever else. He knows what he's doing, right? He knows he's lying, doesn't he?
Which is, of course, why I identified as black, so I could be on the winning team for a while.
Oh, please.
But I have to say, this is the first political...
Millionaire sitting in a mansion says, I identify as black, so I'm on the winning team.
But I have to say, this is the first political poll that ever changed my activities. I don't know that that's ever happened before.
I bet.
Normally you see a poll, you just look at it, you go, whatever. Oh, this is interesting what other people think.
Yeah, you shouldn't trust single polls anyway. You should be looking at aggregates at best, honestly.
But as of today, I'm going to re-identify as white because I don't want to be a member of a hate group. I'd accidentally joined a hate group.
Oh my God.
So if nearly half of all blacks are not okay with white people,
that is not what anybody said, according to a shady, questionable pollster that framed the question in a negative way. And is it even real? Like, did they even actually do the poll? I don't know. I wouldn't put it past Rasmussen to just make this shit up all willy-nilly. It's the kind of thing that they do.
With white people, according to this poll, not according to me, according to this poll, that's a hate group. That's a hate group.
You know what? If let's say 50% of the black community really did actively believe that white people were bad and it was bad to be white and you should not be white and treated white people poorly, I'd have something to say about that. I would have an issue with that. I would want to change culture to make it less destructive to the people around them. There's something called the Black Nationalist Movement. commonly found in the Uhuru movement or the Black Israelites. They're not actually Israelites. The Black Israelites aren't. They just claim to be the real Jews that came up through Egypt and blah, blah, blah. A whole bunch of stuff about Hoteps, middle. They think the real Jews are the black people in America. And they're black nationalists. They believe that they should run the country and that white people should have no hand in it. That black people should control culture and should have a religion that is not white-centric like Christianity and a whole bunch of other things. I don't stand for that. See how easy that is? That's bad. Okay, black nationalism bad. You know what? Nationalism bad. Every time I go to Times Square, I always hear black nationalists screaming about some crazy. But does he look into nuance at all? Of course he doesn't. He's Scott Adams.
And I don't want to have anything to do with them. And I would say, based on the current way things are going, the best advice I would give to white people is to get the hell away from black people.
Oh, so self-segregate. Okay.
Just get the fuck away. Wherever you have to go, just get away. Because there's no fixing this. This can't be fixed.
What can't be fixed?
Right, this can't be fixed. You just have to escape. So that's what I did. I went to a neighborhood where, I have a very low black population. So I think...
Perfect. Low black population. Absolutely on point.
So I think it makes no sense whatsoever as a white citizen of America to try to help black citizens anymore. It doesn't make sense.
Did he literally ever in his life help a black citizen? And if so, can he give me evidence of that? I will take anything. I mean, I will take you gave a black person a quarter for the parking meter. Whatever.
It's no longer a rational impulse. And so I'm gonna back off from being helpful to black America because it doesn't seem like it pays off. Like I've been
right, because it's altruistic, right? No, he's doing it for him. If he can get benefit out of it, he's going for it.
Off. Like I've been doing it all my life, and the only outcome is I get called a racist. That's the only outcome.
When he says like this, it makes sense.
It makes no sense to help black Americans if you're white. It's over. Don't even think it's worth trying. And I'm also really sick of seeing video after video of black Americans beating up non-black citizens.
What? What's he talking about? You're sick of seeing black people beat up white people? What? Bro, I live in New York City. Not only do I live in New York City, I live on the border of Harlem, okay? Right next to Harlem. I'm a minority as a white person in my neighborhood, I believe. And I have never in my life felt threatened by a black person or any other minority group at all. In fact, I've never felt threatened in New York City, period. I've never been victim of crime, of robberies, or of anything at all. I'm just bebopping along, living my life here. No black people are coming and trying to beat me up or any of the other bizarre shit that you seem to believe is happening. I don't know. See, this is the result of him being in very targeted, specific Telegram channels and Discord channels and wherever else that constantly post pictures of that, of a black person beating up a white person with no context. Who knows? Maybe they were called the N-word. Maybe they were being threatened. You have no clue. This guy sees contextless videos of this, just being generous here, assuming this is true, and he jumps to one conclusion. Black people bad. Black people hate white people. Oh yeah, and by the way, improving race relations can definitely, 100% for sure be done by self-segregating into different communities so that you go to different schools, you live in different neighborhoods, you have different jobs, that kind of, yeah. That helps race relations every single time, every time.
I realize it's anecdotal.
You do, really? You realize that? Mr. Mensa, Mr. Atheist, you realize it's anecdotal?
And it doesn't give me a full picture of what's happening.
Huh. How about that?
But every day I look on social media and there's some black person beating the shit out of some white person.
Hey, Jagoff, you just said it's anecdotal and not representative. And do you even know the context behind what you're seeing, if you're even seeing it? Of course he doesn't. He's completely full of shit. So the point here is that Scott Adams is full of shit from start to finish. Always has been, always will be. Member of Mensa or not, I don't care. Member of the atheist community or not, I don't care. But these QAnoners talking about Trump's assassination attempt, they're about to quote Scott Adams, okay?
Adams, who's an atheist or agnostic, said, well, it does look like the good Lord has chosen Trump. And I say that I'm not even a believer.
Yeah, that sounds super atheist to me, 100%.
Yeah.
These people are just poor fools. But there's another clip I want to talk about here. Now, these two people decide to address the question, is Donald Trump like Hitler? Because there's a lot of argument over whether it would have been beneficial to kill Hitler, like to assassinate Hitler. Would that have been a good thing? So let's listen to their kind of analysis on the subject and their analysis of how Trump is like Hitler. I just so happen to know a lot about the subject. So lay it on me.
My question for the people who think that he is going to go full Hitler.
Okay, yep. Who thinks Trump is going to go full Hitler and has two thumbs? This guy right here. Go on.
This time around, that it's going to be the worst thing ever, literally shaking about what he's going to do in a Trump presidency. The question I have is this. How come he didn't do it the first 4 years? What happened?
That's a good question. And here's the answer to that. Donald Trump was working toward those things, but had not quite as much political power or sway or whatever that he will in 2024. Thanks to a Supreme Court who's willing to accept pretty much any executive order that he signs at this point because he appointed them. We've seen that the Supreme Court is willing to grant him immunity, effectively, that they're willing to protect him from prosecution, that they are willing to erase Roe v. Wade, that they're willing to erase the Chevron doctrine, which is a big f***ing deal. I know that it's probably been on the back burner for a lot of people, but it basically just gutted all of the regulatory bodies in the government. So, for example, the FDA has less power, maybe no power at all. It's going to have to be litigated moving forward to regulate our medicine. So if cancer treatments, cancer treatment companies want to dilute it by 50% and sell it for twice as much as they were before, or if they don't feel like getting the rat out of the gigantic saline solution basin that they have, who cares? It's a rat. It doesn't matter. If there's rat poison floating around and one accidentally slips into a bottle of Tylenol, I'm not even joking, that's not something the FDA can legally regulate anymore. Technically, it's on the fence. We don't know what's going to happen if they try to regulate that stuff. But companies know that. They know that they can get away with literally anything because of the things the Supreme Court just did. So when Donald Trump gets back into office, he's expressed an interest in, quote unquote, becoming a dictator on day one. And he now has the infrastructure available to him to carry out dictatorial acts, dictatorial plans or whatever that he didn't have previously, like the Supreme Court, for example. he was trying to win re-election and trying to stay like a little bit within reins to some degree, so he didn't do absolutely unhinged stuff. But in a second term, like, he's not afraid of that. Okay, let's keep listening here. There's your answer.
What happened? How come people weren't put in camps? I mean,
He had 4 years
Well, I mean, people were put in camps, but okay.
to put people in concentration camps, to prosecute all of his enemies. Didn't do any of that. Why did he not do it?
Yeah.
Why didn't he do January 6th before January 6th? Are you serious? A lot of, like, he's progressively gotten worse over the past 4 years, of course. This is like getting worse as time goes on. That's why. This is 8 years ago when the dude won the presidency.
How come he signed the First Step Act to let people who are unfairly incarcerated and given unfair, lengthy sentences? How come he signed that to reverse those sentences?
Okay, I don't know what specific things she's talking about here, the First Step Act. I can tell you, though, that people who got close to him, people who said that they like him and expressed an interest in his campaign or whatever, like Lil Wayne, for example, who had criminal charges on him, if they buddied up to Donald Trump, the criminal charges evaporated just like that. Lil Wayne no longer has a criminal record because he was pardoned by Donald Trump. Kanye West's wife at the time, Kim Kardashian, wanted somebody pardoned, went to the Oval Office, talked to Trump, got him to pardon the person. This stuff, it's corruption all the way down. It's disgusting, dirty, evil dealings all the way down.
That, like, can somebody show me where Hitler did that?
But Hitler absolutely let his political allies and friends out of jail. Are you serious? Do you know anything about World War II? Like, literally anything?
Especially for minorities. I mean, if he's literally Hitler, here's what I would do.
I didn't say he's literally Hitler. I said he's similar to Hitler, but okay.
Here's what I would do if somebody really cares to have this conversation.
Sure.
I would go point by point through Trump's policies from 2016 to 2020.
But the policies are irrelevant. I don't give a shit about the policies. You know what I care about? The rhetoric. When Hitler was ramping things up and getting people whipped into a blood frenzy, he did nothing but blame immigrants for everything wrong in society. Said that these immigrants, who, by the way, happen to be Jews, didn't match the cultural values of Germany, didn't match their religious values, for example, their Christian values, and thus cannot be proper German citizens. So they must be eradicated. They must be taken out. Actually, in the beginning, he said they need to be deported. Mass deportation. Get them out of the country now. And eventually, when he gained enough power, it became stick them in these prison camps if you find them. They were canceling the visas of Jewish, citizens of Germany. They weren't allowed to leave the country at one point. They were forced into camps where they either worked and got one piece of bread per day or something, or they died. They worked them into the ground. They get them off the boxcars. They stand them all up in a row. Somebody goes down the line, picks out certain people, says, you go to the left, you go to the right. You go to the left, you go to the right. If you went to the left, it was to the work camp. If it was to the right, it was to the incinerator. And while the workers were in there doing whatever it is they do, sewing clothing for the military, some military-related thing probably. While they were doing that, or working in mines or whatever, ash from their friends, their family, their mom, their dad, their uncles, their sister, their everything rained down on them all day. Ash rained from the sky as a constant reminder that if you don't do exactly what we say, there are consequences. Some people gave out. They couldn't do it. It was too much. They collapsed. They pass out, and they never wake up again, because the next time they would have woken up would be in a gas chamber. and then brought to the incinerators. That's the kind of that happened in Germany in the 30s to immigrants. It was about immigrants. It wasn't fully about Jews. It was about immigrants who were Jews in their mind. Anyway, keep listening here.
From 2016 to 2020. And I would just say, okay, let's look at this policy. Can you show me where Hitler did the same type of thing?
I couldn't possibly care less about policies. I care about the rhetoric. I care about Trump ramping things up about immigrants and saying they're evil, they're vermin, quote unquote. Hitler and Trump both said that about immigrants. They're poisoning the blood of the country. Hitler and Trump both said that. In Charlottesville, there was a neo-Nazi rally. I'm sorry, I shouldn't even be saying neo-Nazi. There was a Nazi rally, swastika and all, run by Vanguard America, I think. Eventually became Patriot Front. Eventually became Patriot Front. Nazis. They ran through a crowd and killed Heather Heyer, a counter-protester against the Nazi cause. And what was Trump's reaction? To not coldly and plainly condemn Nazi beliefs and behavior. Just like that, period. Nazis are wrong. This cannot be misconstrued or misunderstood or taken any other way than what I'm saying here. Nazis, bad. A woman lost her life because of Nazis. Trump couldn't bring himself to do that. Said, there are good people on both sides. Granted, I suppose he might have been talking about the non-extreme sides. I don't know. I haven't even listened to the transcript. But I don't know about you guys. I personally denounce Nazi behavior when speaking about it. That's just me.
Hitler did.
So the policies are irrelevant to me, but okay.
Policy. Can you show me where Hitler did the same type of thing? Let's look at this policy. Let's talk about the his focus on pro-life.
Okay, great. Yeah, I love it.
And choosing Supreme Court justices that would reverse the abortion. So Hitler was a eugenicist and he was pro-abortion and he...
No, he wasn't. He was opposed to abortion. What are you talking about? Do you know jack about this field? Do you know anything about this history? Like literally anything. There was a eugenics movement worldwide. Germany, the United States had it, the UK, everywhere. Especially in the United States. There's a famous case where the heiress to a large fortune, I don't remember what it was, the chapstick fortune or something, she got like a broken leg, I think, in a car accident. Don't quote me on this. And when she woke up in the hospital, they had to perform surgery to kind of reconstruct it for her. While they were in there, they tied her tubes. They made it so she could never have children. And she sued the hospital for it. The defense? The mother asked them to tie her tubes because she was, what was the term? There's a specific term they used a whole bunch at the time. Was it slow? I think it was slow. Maybe there's another term they used at the time. Anyway, she's slow, meaning she's not all there mentally. The eugenics movement believed itself to be on the left. In reality, it was a right-wing movement. I'm opposed to eugenics because bodily autonomy comes above all else, period. We should have the ability to make decisions for ourselves and our own bodies, and that's the bottom line. That was kind of the ideas, that was kind of the environment that Hitler rose to power under. That environment, the eugenics environment. And he believed you were patriotic if you were a white, blonde, blue-eyed woman who had children with a white, blonde-haired, blue-eyed man. And they'd have contests where they would check the children's teeth and they'd check their hair and their everything else and see which one was the most beautiful and perfect for the Aryan race. We still do that today, by the way. It's called, Miss America, or just like Miss Universe beauty pageants or children's beauty pageants. Is just wrong. Anyway, Hitler condemned and even outright banned abortion if you were from a certain demographic. If you were an immigrant in his mind, quote unquote, if you were Jewish, if you were any number of other minority groups, they would force you to have an abortion, and they would probably send you to a death camp after that anyway. So no, Hitler was actually opposed to abortion. And just to really nail this point in, take a look at this. Abortion in Germany. During the Nazi era, Nazi Germany's eugenics laws severely punished abortion for women belonging to the putative Aryan race, but permitted abortion on wider and more explicit grounds than before if the fetus was believed to be deformed or disabled, which is part of eugenics. They wanted to kill off the elderly because they were a drain on society. Or if termination otherwise was deemed desirable on eugenic grounds, such as the child or either parent suspected of being a carrier of genetic disease. Sterilization of the parents also took place in some cases. In cases where the parents were Jewish, abortion was also not punished. The point is, Hitler was very much opposed to abortion. Unless it was people that he fucking hated. Unless it was people that he was trying to commit a genocide against. The guy that invented eugenics, it was a whole movement back in like the 1900s, I think. 1800s, maybe. They hired a dude to study eugenics with fruit flies. They had like a bunch of jars of different fruit flies. Some with long wings, some with short, some with red eyes, some with black eyes, you know. Large fruit flies, small fruit flies. And this eugenicist scientist tried to predict using, what are Mendel's Punnett squares? Is that what they're called? Punnett squares? He tried to predict it using Punnett squares and every other scientific means he had at his disposal at the time. And he came to find that it's dramatically more complicated than eugenics was presenting. It's just not that simple. It's not like you can breed two long-winged fruit flies and end up with a long-winged fruit fly baby. It's not just that red eyes are dominant, so you breed a red eye and a black eye fruit fly and you get a red eye fruit fly. It didn't work that way actually in practice. So eugenics, while it seems logical, isn't. Aside from the bodily autonomy argument, it doesn't work that way. And that scientist famously quit and was promptly replaced, of course. Anyway, the point I'm so laboriously reaching is that these people are completely and totally 100% full of shit and have no idea what they're talking about.
And he especially targeted minorities and the mentally infirm with abortion. And so can you show me where Trump stepped up his focus on killing more babies in the womb? Because if he's Hitler, then let's do a side-by-side comparison on Trump's policies and show me where he's literally Hitler.
Well, okay, that seems to be the end of the video, basically. But again, my problem isn't with the policies. My problem is with the rhetoric, the extremism, the hate, the vitriol, the violence, calling people vermin, calling them, mentally diseased, poison to the blood of the country, quote unquote. I mean, I have a billion examples of this. This video is already getting really long, so let me just give like one example. Hitler famously said, Jews are living like vermin in our country. That's like one of his most famous statements, one of the most famous words that he used to describe Jews. You have to dehumanize the group that you intend to genocide, and that's how you do it. Okay, so listen for the word vermin here.
In honor of our great veterans on Veterans Day, pledge to you.
Oh, I'm sorry, one more thing. It's not lost on me that the chyron on the bottom here says, Trump continues to joke about the assault of Paul Pelosi and all this moral outrage about, Trump assassination jokes is completely out of control. We'll get there, though.
Pledge to you that we will root out the communists, Marxists, fascists, and the radical left thugs that live like vermin within the confines of our country, that lie and steal and cheat on elections.
Any of that sound familiar?
The threat from outside forces is far less sinister, dangerous, and grave than the threat from within.
So, anyway, that's just one example. I have like a billion. He quotes Hitler regularly and pretends that it's not a quote, pretends it's just coming out of his mouth and his brain. And you know what? If it is coming out of his mouth and brain and he's not actually quoting Hitler, that's even more disturbing.